Hi, my name is Scott Lynn. I'm an audit partner at Blankenship CPA Group and want to discuss today the new lease standard that is coming into effect for calendar year ends for nonprofits and privately held businesses. This lease standard has been in the process for a number of years. It's been discussed year after year and extended year after year, and now it is finally going into effect. So the goal of today is to really give you some high points of the things to consider as you're transitioning to this new accounting standard, processes that you may need to think about, documents to gather, and those sort of things. So really want to point out those highlights for you, give you something to discuss internally, and even reach out to us if you have further questions on as well. If you're a December 31, 2022 year end, the implementation date for this is January 1st, 2022. There are a number of practical expedients and transition methods, of which requires further detail than today's conversation. But what we want to bring to your attention is that leases, whether it's an operating or what used to be a capital lease, are now moving to your balance sheet. And so the impact of this really relates to impacting potential debt covenants that you have with line of credit agreements, or impacting your current ratios, those sort of things. So every lease agreement that you have currently, some may be included on your balance sheet and some may not be included on your balance sheet. And what this standard does is that it pulls all lease agreements to your balance sheet, and it'll create what's called a right of use asset and a right of use liability. And those will be accounted for in certain ways based off the terms of the lease agreement. But the whole intention of this lease standard is to bring all leases to the balance sheet and show them respectively in the financial statements. In history, those leases could have been what was called operating leases and left off of the balance sheet. So the point of the standard is to bring clarity to all leases that are held for companies, bring all those onto the books of those companies, and have some comparability across companies and not-for-profits and governmental entities. So just wanted to hit a few high points here. So there's a couple practical expedients out there. There's 8 of them. Practical expedients are meant to make the transition easier for you, less work for you, and faster implementation. There's 8 of those. I would encourage each one of you to look at those in detail, ask questions about what's the best process to do so, and look at those expedients to help with the transition. There are a number of transition methods. There's 2 types. You have what's called a transition method A. So transition method A says if you're presenting comparative financial statements, you make a cumulative effect adjustment to retained earnings for the earliest period presented. This transition method requires further work and detail analysis, and is the harder of the 2 transition methods. Transition method B is that you show pretty much your cumulative effect adjustment to retained earnings in the year of adoption. So if you're a 12/31/22 year end, you would make an adjustment at January 1st, 2022. If you undergo audits or reviews, if you're presenting comparative financial statements for transition method B, that does allow for some comparability issues because you're making an adjustment for one year and not the other, but it also makes it easier. So I encourage you to look into those and see what is best for you. 9 times out of 10, I think most will choose transition method B, but again, you got to do what's best for your company and what you would want to see internally. As far as next steps for your company or organization, what I would encourage you to do is first gather a population of all your lease agreements. So go through all of your documents, talk to your various departments, and discuss and question what are the lease agreements out there that I need to summarize and put in a portfolio together. Once you've done that, I would then encourage you to go through the data, look at your lease terms. If there's any stated interest amounts in there, what are your monthly payment amounts? There's a variety of things that we would need to help with the accounting of this under this new lease standard, but the most important thing is making sure that you have a complete population of your lease agreements. Furthermore, once you've done that, there's a variety of tools out there to help with the implementation of this standard. a variety of which are offered as third-party software that you can get, or we can help internally as well at Blankenship through our consulting department and assurance department to help with the journal entries required. The hardest part is getting it right on the front end. After that, it's very straightforward and is routine adjustments. The only time you need to make any changes is if you change your lease agreement, you have a modification, or there's any change to the contract. To summarize again, the lease standard is effective for December 31, 2022 year ends with an implementation date of January 1st, 2022. If you elect one of the transition method B, there is a lot of information to gather with the new lease standard and a lot of routine journal entries after the implementation accounting is complete. I would encourage you to gather all of your lease agreements, go through them in detail at this point if you haven't already, and provide those to your accounting department internally, and if you need any assistance on the implementation of that, we would be glad to assist. Thank you for listening to our presentation today on the new lease standard that's coming out, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thank you.